God, anyone, help me. The darkness seemed eternal as I ran, clutching my bleeding wounds. How could those things possibly inflict pain on me? Those things weren't human, not undead, not hollow, not animal. What were they? My sword passed through them as if they were non-existent, yet their weapons sliced through my skin, even though I'm protected by steel plating. Not only did their attacks cause me physical pain, but somehow spiritual pain? I don't know how to phrase it. Doesn't matter. All that matters is that I have to get away. Flashback. I lifted my sword up into the sky so that it caught the sunlight. The steel blade glimmered in the sun, as did my armor. I sighed heavily and slowly made my way down some stone steps that would lead me to Firelink Shrine. It's been a long time since I've been able to rest and relax in a sanctuary such as Firelink. I left here exactly 2 weeks ago and haven't had a decent rest since. Hopefully I can relax for a while now that I've gotten a majority of the Lord Souls that I was told to acquire by Kingseeker Fran. There was only one more on my list that I needed. Walking over to the bonfire, I took off my helmet and stretched out my arms. As I reached for the warm embrace of the flames, I plopped myself down next to the fire and started digging through my pack. I searched and finally found the list of the Lord Souls that I needed. Let's see. I mumbled softly to myself as I got out my quill and started crossing out the names of the souls that I had already gathered. There were many names, 4 in total. I crossed off the top 3 names that I had already defeated. I followed my pen with my eyes into the bottom of the page. The 4 Kings? I read the name to myself in a quizzical manner. A man who calls himself the Crestfallen Warrior looked in my direction when he heard this. "Ah, you seek the 4 Kings, do you?" He smiled at me in his usual ominous fashion. Although his voice may sound foreboding, his words aren't. He had helped me many times in the past, when I was lost, and it seemed like he was willing to lend his knowledge to me again. The 4 Kings. Where can I find them? Not wanting to waste any time, I decided to ask him straight out.
"There is a path below, near the Firekeeper's cell. You've seen it, right?"
I nodded.
"Well, there's a path down there that should take you to the ruins of New Londo. But be careful down there. I've heard those ruins are haunted."
He laughed in a slightly monotone way. Haunted? That's completely ridiculous, I thought with a smirk plastered on my face. The crestfallen warrior's smile and laughter ceased as he gazed at the smug look on my face.
"Well, if you don't believe me, that's fine. But then again, it's your funeral."
His original demeanor returned as he began to stand up. Without a word, he started walking away, disappearing from my line of sight. So, New Londo Ruins is next, huh? Lying on my back, closing my eyes, I started thinking about what he meant by haunted. I opened up my eyes and slowly sat up, awakening from my deep sleep. I cursed under my breath. Damn, this is no time to be dozing off. I have things that need to be done. I hopped up to my feet and threw on my helmet that had been laying down on the floor next to me. Without another thought in my mind, I made my way to the lift that led to the ruins that the warrior had told me about. When I entered the room, it seemed like the lift had already been sent down. Seeing as it didn't really matter anyway, I pulled the lever and brought it back up and got on. The ride down seemed to last forever as the light from the sun slowly faded into darkness. With a loud slam and the kicking up of dust, it seemed like the end of the ride. I drew my sword and shield in caution. I hadn't ventured into these ruins and I didn't really know what to expect. I gazed at the sight before me, not really grasping what I was seeing. The word ruin certainly did describe this place well. The cracked stone, mossy walls, and gritty atmosphere did give off a feeling of a ruin. I slowly exited the archway of the bottom of the stone steps that led from the lift. There was a sound of moaning and scratching of the walls. I quickly raised my shield and turned to the source of the sound. Hollows, but they weren't attacking me. I lowered my shield and sheathed my sword and watched them for a bit. They seemed so helpless. There were some lying on the floor, curled up in a ball. I turned my head and looked at the path forward. Huh, that's strange. Looks like there's someone off in the distance. The figure looked a bit familiar. It's like I had seen it somewhere before. I hastily drew my sword as I saw that the figure had come charging closer, as I was lost in thought. In a flash, the figure appeared in front of me, smashing its sword onto my shield. My reflexes reacted, and I swung my shield back, parrying its attack. Without any pause, I plunged my sword into its chest. The figure backed off, holding its chest and then dropping to its knees. I focused my eyes on the figure, since I finally have a moment to get a good look at it. The crestfallen warrior. Not his usual self, but hollowed. In a shock, I stumbled back. The very concept of becoming completely hollow frightens me. To see a quite sane person suddenly lose it all and become a monster. The crestfallen warrior fell face down and his body disappeared. I shook my head, trying to get a hold of myself, and treaded to the wooden bridge that led deeper into the ruins. As I walked across the bridge, I glanced down and was astonished. The ruins were completely flooded, apart from the buildings that rose far above the water. However, that wasn't the astonishing part. As I squinted into the murky water, something moved. I froze, widening my eyes at the creature below the water. They were like skeletons, except with the stature of a human. Beneath their hoods, their dark sockets seemed to fixate on me. I slapped myself lightly on the cheek and then jogged forward, ignoring the hooded monsters watching me. An ear-piercing scream made me lose my footing. I slipped, fell face forward into some shallow water. I darted my head up and raised my shield. What the hell? In front of me stood a white, transparent creature. I jumped up and slashed at the ghostly figure. My attacks proved ineffective as the creature stood there unmoved. The ghost's sleeves peeled back, and scythes came out of them. I couldn't move. The fear of not being able to fight back was too powerful. The arms of the monster sliced through me, sending me hurling back onto the ground. I looked up and saw it. More of them. They were coming out of the walls. I gripped my side in pain. My side was cut open. I jumped to my feet, still cringing in pain, and ran past the ghosts. I ran up the stone walls and saw even more of them. Sprinting as fast as I could, I closed my eyes and ran forward onto the small stone bridge into the tower. I looked up the spiraling stairs and was halted by more of them. I closed my eyes as tightly as I could. The words of the crestfallen warrior rang through my ears. I've heard those ruins are haunted. I fell to my knees as the ghosts surrounded me. Those ruins are haunted. I clenched my teeth, hoping that all of this would stop. Haunted. I opened my mouth, ready to scream, but only a soft whimper came out.
God, anyone, help me.